With 1 month until May 4th, we were just given a trailer for Tales of the Jedi Season 2, which will instead be Tales of the Empire. We're getting new stories about Morgan Elsbeth, and finally, we're going to find out what happened to Barriss Offee. That's been a question Star Wars fans have had for over a decade since we last saw her in the Clone Wars. StarWars.com says, journey into the fearsome galactic empire through the eyes of two warriors on divergent paths, Night Sister Morgan Elsbeth and former Jedi Barriss Offee. Like the first season following Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku, Tales of the Empire focuses on previously untold events in the lives of the featured characters. The trailer teases that we'll learn how a young Morgan Elsbeth navigates the expanding Imperial world towards a path of vengeance, while former Jedi Barriss Offee does what she must to survive a rapidly changing galaxy. The choices they make will define their destinies. I assume we'll get 3 episodes about each character like the first season, but let's get into the trailer. I'll start with Morgan's stuff and just stick with her. We're definitely gonna see how she came to be an ally of Thrawn's. It looks like one of their first meetings takes place on Corvus, where we were introduced to the character in The Mandalorian Season 2. Thrawn is an admiral at this point, so she must have been in control of the planet or at least that village before the time of Star Wars Rebels. She talks about how the Night Sisters were massacred during the Clone Wars and how her anger surrounding the loss gives her strength. We see her in the thick of the fighting, but obviously she escapes. It's cool seeing her wearing more classic Night Sister garb. On a cliff, she looks out at the burning forests of Dathomir. I think the other 2 women with them are witches of the Mountain Clan, because the subtitles later name a Mountain Clan matron. We see a bright light blasting away a bunch of B-2 battle droids, and a figure is silhouetted in there. That could be the matron saving a young Elsbeth. The Night Sisters were the most well-known witches of Dathomir, but they weren't the only witches of Dathomir. It'll be cool to see more of them on screen, and that could mean a lot of fun Legends connections. Maybe we'll even see them riding Rancors. I'm betting the first episode might cover the loss she experienced at the hands of General Grievous and the battle droids. It's awesome that we see him, and her sickles covered in green flame are rad. I think that'll be a quick start to episode 1, and then we'll see the aftermath with the Mountain Clan, who might take Elsbeth in and maybe teach her their ways. There could be some connections to a story in Tales of Light and Dark called Bug, which was written by E. Ann Convery, who also happens to be married to Dave Filoni, but the Mountain Clans were in that story. I think Morgan's second episode could be how she takes control of Corvus and meets Thrawn. It's interesting that she doesn't have the facial markings of a Night Sister anymore. I'm curious if she'll magically hide them, or if they're magically removed, or what's going on there. The third episode will probably be after the fall of the Empire, because we see her meeting with Wing from The Mandalorian and some New Republic dignitaries. At one point, Morgan says she will fulfill her destiny, and there's a great cut of her standing in her burning home, and then all of a sudden she's grown up and she's walking away from a burning ship, and we see her burning another forest, probably on Corvus. She is repeating the same cycle of violence. What's more is she is helping the Empire, who are basically responsible for the massacre of her people. She might not know that Palpatine was giving orders to Grievous, but still. Thinking back to Ahsoka, she has that great line under her breath for Dathomir, in response to Thrawn saying, for the Empire. She might be using the Empire and their resources to help bring back Night Sisters from Peridia, but come on. She is helping her enemies and inflicting cycles of pain on others to do it. She has a great line that her world has been burning since she was a child, but that's not an excuse to literally burn someone else's world. I think Barriss and Morgan's stories will be linked by this idea of pain and loss, and how people can get so lost in it that they wind up A, inflicting the same pain and loss on other people, and B, wind up helping those that were the cause of the original suffering. And that feels like a good segue into Barriss's part of the trailer. First, I dropped an "oh shit" when I saw her, because I'd all but given up hope that we'd ever follow up on her story. We see the Inquisitor's shuttle from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series approaching an ocean moon. I assume that's Nur, where the Fortress Inquisitorius is located. The fourth sister approaches Barriss with an invitation. She seems like she's still dressed in Jedi-looking robes, and the clones with her are still marked red, so this has got to be very soon after the end of the Clone Wars, if not during. I love that we're going to learn more about the fourth sister, and probably even more about how and when Inquisitors were selected, the training they go through, and all that good stuff. This is one of those stories that feels like it'll have great themes and emotions, which should be the priority, but it's also going to satisfy the nerdy lore side of things. If you haven't read Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah Dawson yet, now would probably be a good time to do that. We see Baris taken to some sort of training facility with the lightsabers of fallen Jedi, and it's got a very Sith vibe to it. She trains with the Grand Inquisitor, who says mercy only breeds defeat. I wonder if that could be a criticism of her attack on the Jedi Temple in the Clone Wars, which isn't something I would call merciful, but as a full-on Darksider, I could see the Grand Inquisitor considering it a half measure. He sounds an awful lot like Jason Isaacs, so I hope they bring him back. I assume they will, since it also sounds like Diana Lee Inosanto and Lars Mikkelsen have returned. I think Barris's release from prison and initial introduction to the Inquisitorius will probably be her first episode. The second might be her induction into the Inquisitorius, which might involve her training with the Grand Inquisitor and culminate in that fight to the death with another candidate. I could see the final part of that episode being her lined up with the fourth sister, the sixth brother, and who I think might be Marok. That feels like a good, chilling conclusion to have her bend the knee to Anakin Skywalker, and there's a lot of history in that moment. In what I think will be her third episode, we see Barriss running towards a fight between the fourth sister and a Jedi. Right now, my hope is that she will wind up saving the Jedi. We know Morgan Elsbeth is going to stick with the Empire to the end. Just so there's some contrast, I would not mind seeing Barriss see the error of her ways. In the Clone Wars, she criticizes the Jedi for losing their way and taking part in the suffering of the galaxy, and here she is doing the exact same thing. I'm sure she's still mad at the Jedi, but there could be a great moment where she realizes the Inquisitors are willing to burn a village to the ground to kill the Jedi who is defending that same village. Open your eyes, Barriss. Although, if she does come out of these episodes alive, then that just means people are going to continue asking me, where's Barriss Offee, and the cycle will continue. Anyway, there could be a great connection between the two sets of episodes since Marok is involved. They definitely set up some interesting mysteries surrounding him and Ahsoka, and I have to assume Dave Filoni already knew what he wanted to do in Tales of the Empire, so maybe we could see Marok killed in battle and then reanimated by Elsbeth or something. I also think it would be hilarious if we saw his face in this instead of Ahsoka, but I doubt it. I think they'll just keep him masked. Marok and other mysteries aside, this is what Tales of the Empire or Jedi or whatever comes next should be used for. There are characters that warrant further exploration, but don't need a full-on series. There are questions we would love to have answered, but it doesn't always make sense to insert those answers into another story. So why not handle stuff like that in a set of shorts? I had lots of questions about both Barriss and Elsbeth. I would have taken a comic or a book or something, but it's great to be able to see it play out on screen as a little treat for Star Wars Day. One more thing I want to talk about before concluding that's kind of off topic is Asajj Ventress. People, including myself, were speculating she might have a few shorts when we still thought this was going to be Tales of the Jedi Season 2. After her appearance in The Bad Batch, we were told questions surrounding her would be addressed in future stories. Tales of the Jedi seemed like a natural fit. Now that we know that's not happening, I think following her in a future series is sounding more and more likely. I could easily see a series surrounding the Hidden Path, where we follow Asajj and Quinlan Vos and other potential Jedi or Force sensitives fighting to reach safety during the reign of the Empire. My only argument against that is that we've had so many stories set in that era of Star Wars that I wouldn't mind seeing something else. But I think the idea could be very compelling. But that's all I've got to say about the Tales of the Jedi trailer and, I guess, the potential future of Star Wars animation. The worst part about it all is that I just did an updated video about all the Inquisitors and now it's already out of date. And come to think of it, the day I put out this year's canon timeline video, it will also be immediately out of date. But oh well. Let me know what you thought of the trailer in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.